all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Dr. Martin Luther King, 39 years old and a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and the leader of the nonviolent civil rights movement in the United States, was assassinated in Memphis tonight. A sniper's bullet cut down Dr. King as he stood on a hotel balcony in Memphis. Within an hour, Dr. King was dead. That happened at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The nation was shocked. President Johnson expressed horror and then postponed his trip to Hawaii until tomorrow. We're going to go to Memphis now and talk to ABC's Tom Jarrell, who is on the scene.
Here in Memphis, of course, a great deal of shock, a great deal of confusion, and a great deal of some violence. I can't say a great deal because I don't really know. I do know that police are very concerned, that the fire department is moving units around the streets, and that there is some rock throwing and some fires reported and some shooting. The full extent of at this time from this vantage point can't be assessed. The full curfew has been imposed on the streets of Memphis. Everyone except emergency vehicles are being cleared from the streets. The National Guard, which had been on duty here up until late last night, they have been recalled to duty and are being put on the streets of Memphis right away. Of course, a great deal of confusion and chaos resulting from the announcement here that Dr. King had died. It was a very great shock for something like this to happen. The shooting occurred at the Lorraine Motel. It was a favorite place for civil rights leaders and for Negro businessmen to stay here in Memphis. I believe we have some film now, Bob, if we can take a look at that. This is where the shooting occurred tonight, where Dr. King was killed. The Lorraine Motel is a favorite place for Negro leaders to stay while in Memphis. It's a very nice, new, modern motel. He was on this second floor balcony, standing exactly where these two officers are, talking with some of his aides at the time of the shooting. The scene immediately became confused. Officers ran forward and attempted to secure the area. The shot apparently came from an apartment building directly across the street. The members of Dr. King's staff were there. discussing a mass rally which was planned for tonight. They said that suddenly there was a sound that sounded faintly like a firecracker or something, and
he was talking
that
about
he was
the
shot.
musical program for tonight's mass rally,
Yeah.
and he had asked you to play a special tune.
Yes, yeah.
Did he say anything after he was shot? Could you tell how seriously he was wounded?
He just said, "Oh," and it knocked him back, off his feet.
After that, was anything said at all?
Nothing but "oh," and we yelled, and Reverend Jackson, he yelled back at Dr. King. We all hollered. Everybody hollered after the shooting, I was standing kind of sideways. I really didn't have my back to where the shot came from. And when I turned all the way around, we saw the sheriff or the police up on the hill up there.
That was the musical director for Dr. King's group, Ben Branch. He was standing alongside Dr. King when the shot came that killed Dr. King. In fact, Dr. King was discussing tonight's musical program with Ben Branch at the very moment when the shot was fired. The shot, as I say, apparently came from an apartment building which had a number of floors and overlooked the motel. It was a very clear shot to the place where Dr. King was standing on the balcony discussing the situation with his aides. The police here in Memphis immediately issued a bulletin for a young white man dressed in dark clothes who dashed out of that building across the street. He dropped a Browning automatic rifle, which was fitted with a scope on the sidewalk, and then he fled. We don't have any late information from police headquarters here in Memphis because communications channels at the moment are completely clogged with emergency calls. We don't know if anyone has been apprehended, although we understand that some suspects may be being questioned at police headquarters. So the situation here in Memphis is that a complete shock. The community is in a state of confusion at the moment. Telephone lines, except for emergency calls, are not being handled. Emergency calls only are being handled. And the curfew, which has been reimposed, is a full curfew, everyone off the streets except emergency vehicles. And the National Guard has been called back out in an effort to maintain law and order. This is Tom Jarrell in Memphis. Now back to Bob Young in New York.
Thank you, Tom. Joining me here in New York is Peter Jennings, who's been on the road around the country, has seen some of the civil rights happenings, and has met Dr. King, and as I have. Peter, do you have any immediate thoughts about what this assassination, what the reactions may be around the country to it? I know this is highly speculative, but it's...
Yeah, I suppose the first concern, Bob, that everybody has, and it's obviously the one that Governor Buford Ellington has, and the people of Memphis have, and the people of Harlem have, and other major Negro areas in the cities around the country, is the outbreak of violence. I was sitting with a friend of mine tonight who's been very involved in thinking and believing in civil rights, asked what his reaction was, and would there be violence? And he said no, he didn't think so, that King had created such a spirit, that this would not create a mass kind of violence like Malcolm X did.
I think it bodes some waiting. Unfortunately, in New York's Harlem, it's raining tonight. Weather has a great deal to do with violence, as I'm sure that both you and I know, both in this country as indeed it does in some of the Latin countries, where we have both served.
You know, Bob, there's a great radio station in New York here, WBAI are the call letters, I think, which is essentially a Harlem-oriented radio station. And on past occasions when things have got, touchy in that particular area, WBAI has done a great deal to keep the community knit together and calm down. I was trying to get them on the radio tonight, and